Is the ASUS Strix worth the $450 price tag that it carries? Find out after the intro. Unboxing this card was a very pleasant experience. Inside the box we find Velcro cable ties in place of accessories and a World of Warships premium card. A driver CD and user manual are also found in the box, but I encourage you to download the latest drivers online. Under a few layers of foam and a cheap anti-static bag, we find the card itself. ASUS is known for its Strix cooler that debuts on both Team Red and Team Green cards, featuring Aura RGB lighting this time around, only adding to the already premium build quality of this card. On the front of the card we find three 80mm fans blowing directly onto the DirectCU3 cooler. Above and below each fan we are greeted with an Aura RGB LED strip embedded in the cooler. Moving to the right side of the card we find two 4-pin PWM fan headers, ideally used for controlling airflow to the card. This feature is very unique and adds a lot of value to any graphics card, especially a 1070. The back of the card struts a full body-length metal backplate with cutouts for screws and power delivery circuitry. Another Aura-enabled LED is located on the back in the form of the Strix logo. For power delivery, the card features a single 8-pin power connector which is recessed into the cooler to help with cable management. We are also given an 8+2 super alloy power phase, giving this card a lot of theoretical headroom for overclocking. But the card comes with a factory overclock, so your mileage may vary. The Strix card features a 1936 MHz boost clock in OC mode over the 1683 MHz boost clock of the Founders Edition card. When combined with this very attractive cooler, gives an almost unrivaled experience. Moving past the specs, for I/O we find two DisplayPort 1.4 ports, two HDMI 2.0 ports, as well as the aged but still used DVI-D port. So, how well does this card perform in ultra-wide gaming? We benchmark BioShock Infinite, War Thunder, and Rocket League on both the RX 480 and GTX 1070. As the benchmarks will show, the Strix GTX 1070 had a lead in all of our benchmarks, although keep in mind some of the games are not yet optimized for this new hardware. We benchmarked BioShock Infinite because the game is largely GPU bound. It may be a few years old, but it is still a very demanding game, and with the remastered version being released very soon, I thought I would show you how the card performs now. I will put out another video when the remastered version is released to show you guys how the card performs with all the optimizations. Next up was War Thunder. This game is very GPU dependent and, if present, uses a lot of physics. Throughout gameplay, frames per second were very playable, even with 16 times anti-tropic aliasing and the system driving roughly 33% more pixels than a typical 1080p panel thanks to my ultra-wide panel. War Thunder is free to play and I highly recommend it to anyone who likes realistic third-person shooters. The last game we benchmarked was Rocket League. We benchmarked this game in the beta OpenGL mode and it was largely unstable, showing that there was a lot of room for improvement. But with some code optimizations and bug fixes, this game could perform a lot better. If you look at the 0.1% lows in the benchmarks, games tend to have less stutter and frame dips on the GTX 1070 opposed to the RX 480. If you look at the gap between the RX 480 and the GTX 1070, it is a lot smaller in OpenGL than it is in DirectX. And with Vulkan's rapid adoption rate, we will only expect to see better performance from this point on. Conclusion time. Priced at $450, I feel that this card puts the Founders Edition to shame, not only in terms of performance, but in price, overclocking potential, and not to mention the numerous aesthetics this card taunts. The 1070 put up against the 480 is not exactly a fair comparison, as the two cards are in two completely different price brackets. The 1070 costs about $200 more, and you would expect it to perform better, right? Well, it does. That being said, if you don't really have the budget for the 1070 and want to play games at 1080p, ultra-wide, or 1440p, there should be no reason that you shouldn't go with the RX 480 or the GTX 1060. Both of them are priced very similarly and have very similar performance. That being said though, they are not going to be able to do 4K gaming, nor will they be able to play 1440p at ultimate maxed out settings without some issues. Overall, the Strix 1070 is a fantastic card, and I highly recommend it to anyone in the $400 to $500 price bracket. It performs better, looks better, overclocks better, and is all around better than the Founders Edition. I have a few personal gripes with the NVIDIA drivers, not only for Windows 10, but for Ubuntu Linux. That being said, I'll be putting my 1070 away for a while until the drivers get better. I will be performing benchmarks with the Oculus Rift in the next few weeks, and I'm trying to get my hands on the HTC Vive to release an AMD versus NVIDIA VR showdown, as well as an Oculus Rift versus HTC Vive performance test to show you which system truly is VR ready. Alright guys, that's the end of this video. Please like, comment, and subscribe. It helps me know how I'm doing. I'm Scott from Nova Hardware, and thanks for tinkering with us.